And this evening's editorial is with Curtis Ward, former ambassador to the United Nations. Tonight he'll be sharing his thoughts on the withdrawal of U.S. forces from Afghanistan and the Taliban takeover. Good evening, Ambassador, and thank you for joining us.
Hospitals.
Good evening. Thanks for having me back.
In terms of general, what we would see is that the Western region in particular.
I think we've got like a slight hiccup.
Okay, so we're standing by to hear from Ambassador Ward.
Well, as we sort of said, it's what I'm curious to find out about from the ambassador is like whether or not this... Ambassador,
okay.
Are you there now?
Yes, okay. You want me to begin now?
Yes, please do.
Okay, well, first of all, what we've seen in the past few days in Afghanistan, while we expected the Taliban to regain power, we never really expected it to happen so quickly. And certainly, the U.S. withdrawal started off in a very chaotic way, as the images of people running alongside an aircraft, clinging onto an aircraft, trying to get on board an already overcrowded aircraft. What you may have also noticed is in that crowd, there were very few women and certainly no children. These were all mostly young men chasing after the aircraft. I noticed in all of the discussions about it, nobody has mentioned the demographics of the individuals who were doing this. Be that as it may, there are tens of thousands of Afghans who would like to leave Afghanistan. And that is in addition to those who had worked or collaborated in some form or another with the United States and other foreign militaries that were part of NATO force. So the recent uptick in the evacuation of those individuals seemed to be going quite well, very well organized after the first day of chaos. And according to the US military, they can now extract between 5,000 and 9,000 individuals from Afghanistan. The big problem is for the people who merit this evacuation by the US government. How do they get to the airport safely? The understanding that I've been getting from individuals who are of Afghanistan descent, who are speaking to people on the ground, have explained to me that it is extremely difficult and extremely dangerous for individuals with credentials, marking them as having collaborated with the United States, to pass through the Taliban checkpoints to get to the airport. But again, one of the main issues that I am concerned about is how will the Taliban behave in the future towards women and girls. When Jamaica served on the UN Security Council in 2000-2001, we had to deal with this issue of what the Taliban was doing to women and girls. Women had to wear the burqas. No part of their skin could show, and that includes their faces had to be covered, and only little openings or mesh for their eyes. Also for girls, they were not allowed to go to school after at a very young age. There was no more school for them. In the last 20 years, where the Taliban has been out of Kabul, we've seen lots of progress among women and girls, and in the people themselves. Whether the Taliban will have learned from past lessons that the international community would not stand by and watch them go back to the pre-2011 period when they treated women and girls and male citizens as well. The way they did, the imposition of strict Sharia law, and so on and so forth. So far, they have given indication that that's not their intention. But once they consolidate control over the government, and this is not a very easy task, I must tell you. Being in Kabul doesn't mean they control the country, because Afghanistan is made up of warlords and tribes, and these warlords and tribes go to the highest bidder. For now, the highest bidder is the Taliban. In the immediate post-9/11 period, the highest bidder was the United States. Lots of money were paid to these warlords to turn against the Taliban. But these warlords follow the money. And with the Taliban now in Kabul, we can expect them to follow them. But in terms of governance, I have seen where the Taliban is reaching out to former government workers to remain in their jobs or to return to their jobs in order to carry out the administration of cities and states and provinces and so on. So the future is very uncertain. I expect the United States to remove as many of its citizens and people who work for the United States as possible, as difficult as it might be. But in order to have this done, the United States have to have an agreement with the Taliban. Now, whether this agreement is made public or not, there is no question in my mind that they are already well into discussion, and there are already understandings that the Taliban have given, or commitments, I should say, that the Taliban would have already given to the United States. And it's on that basis that the United States can have the concentric perimeter, the immediate airport, and a few miles beyond the airport to accept individuals. But the main question is, how do these individuals get through to the airport, to get into that safe perimeter, to be able to be transported out of Afghanistan without the Afghan government, as it is now, the Taliban, agree to allow them safe passage to the airport?
Well, sir, we only have about a minute left. 30 seconds. Unfortunately, that is it. I'd love to continue the conversation and hear more. However, we do have to go, sir. Thank you very much for your time, Ambassador.
Thank you. Anytime.